Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Dan O'Brien. I'm the senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. And today I'm joined by Alex Andrawes, who is the founder of both Personal Wine and Chem ID. Very excited to have you sitting down with me today, Alex, getting into some conversations around business, the business climate, your journey in entrepreneurship, and just business ownership overall. Fun things to come here. So ready to get into it. Alex, thank you. Let's start off with just a little bit of background. Tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us about the businesses that you're involved with today.
Yeah, so I'm based out of Austin, Texas. Graduate from University of Texas at Austin, and traveled the world as a young man. Come from a family of immigrants. My mother from Mexico, my father from Egypt, and really just as a very young man, was very excited to just kind of do my own thing. I've always been somebody who doesn't play by the rules, so to speak. Yet, as I started to get into regulated businesses, I learned very quickly that you absolutely have to play by the rules inside regulatory environments. So I love regulated businesses. I think that they generally speaking keep there's a natural moat around them. And as long as you're willing to play by those rules in regulated businesses, you could do very well. And obviously there's going to be some limitations as to, how big you can grow, how fast you can grow. But I've always been a long game kind of guy. And so I also have, a little bit about me is, I'm married, I have two children, two young girls, live a great life in a great town. Austin, Texas is a great place to raise a family, and a lot of cool things to do. Music, is my thing, not so much sports. And, one thing that I really love to do is I love to help entrepreneurs, because I believe that entrepreneurs are the future of growth for business, for opportunity. And I like to be able to give back as much as I can to young entrepreneurs who are looking to start something on their own.
Love that. And on that topic, we can take this conversation, a number of different ways here today. But with that kind of being a topic, as you look kind of over the next few months, what do you see as kind of the things that entrepreneurs should be aware of and kind of keep in front of their focus as they look out for the next, let's say 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so this is not a time period that is dissimilar from 2008, 2009. A lot of the indicators that I see in fine wine point to that scenario. You have a different kind of banking crisis. The one thing I would tell you is what I think is different between this, the time that we're in today in, March, call it March 15th, 2023 versus August 2008, right, is going to be, number one, we have a whole lot more information in front of us, and we have rapidly evolving technologies that are in front of us. We've got quite a bit of information. We've got so much information in front of us. We actually don't know what to do with it as human beings, and it causes a lot of confusion. And I think the one thing that I would tell entrepreneurs today is really, focus. This is not a time to take extraordinary risk. This is a time to focus on the three things, preferably the one thing that makes you great and makes you different from a business perspective. This is a time to be humble. This is a time to call all of your clients and say, thank you very much for your business, instead of sending them an email. This is a time to be personal. And this is a time to be very much thankful, especially to your employees that are potentially facing, either personal crisis of their own, or at the same time, they're facing inflation at home, right? I mean, the cost of eggs is $9, for a pack of eggs, and when you start thinking about the cost of eggs, the cost of gas, the cost of utilities, it's affecting them. And it's important to be thankful of them, because they're going through pressure. As an entrepreneur, you're going through pressure, and your clients are going through pressure. And so if you can't take, exceptional risks today to try to leap forward, neither can your clients. So it's important to be cognizant of that, and to be respectful of that, and just play a little bit more of a long game now. You have to be more patient right now. And, it's really important for entrepreneurs to conserve as much cash as possible right now, simply because, especially what's going on last week with SVB collapsing. The regional banks, which are the banks that will take more risk on entrepreneurs, they're ratcheting down, they're battening down the hatches, right? They're basically, they're taking less risk. They're going to charge you higher interest rates if they even loan you money at all. And that is especially true in the wine business. The wine business lost a huge ally in SVB. It is quite a shame. Most people think of SVB, they think of technology lending. SVB was the largest lender to the fine wine business, to the wine business in Napa Valley, Sonoma, all across the world. They understood the wine business all the way from the manufacturing all the way to retail, and to not have them there is a huge loss. And all of those facets right there point to slow down, be thankful, be focused, thank your clients, thank your employees, and really just focus on what makes you great, and focus on delivering that, and be patient. I think that this one is going to blow over faster than the last one. The last one lasted, I think, 2 or 3 years before things kind of smoothed out. I think this one's not going to last as long. I think this is just roller coaster volatility. You had the pressure of COVID, you had the pressure of just rapid buying causing inflation. You had the pressures of logistics, and then you have the war in the Ukraine, which caused the price of energy to go up, which causes the price of everything you're paying for to go up, because everything has to be shipped and transported. And so all of these singular events have culminated and are basically being dropped on us as entrepreneurs right now. So it's important not to be too inventory heavy. It's important to be inventory light and cash heavy. And sometimes that means selling your inventory at cost or at a loss to convert it to cash as fast as you can, because cash is king.
So powerful. And for those that are watching, you and I had a quick chat right before we jumped on here, and you'd asked me kind of what are some of the things that we're seeing on our end, and one of those is the need to cash up. And you look at what can happen in the banking industry, and time will tell what will actually happen here over the next few months. But when high risk things happen, that ability to access capital or access credit goes down, because they're going to take less risk, and they're going to be a little bit safer on that end. Even if nothing crazy does happen, that tends to be the case in the banking sector. I spent a number of years working for banks and such before jumping into our Action Coach firm, in the lending side, primarily mortgage, and we saw it with COVID as well, and with some of the bigger banks, it just the decisions about who they would lend to and how the lending structure, credit wise, underwriting wise, tightened up a lot, and then it's kind of opened up again since then. But it does make it harder to access capital. So if you're a business and all of a sudden you may need to draw on a line of credit because there's a little bit of a cash gap, you may be profitable today and still have that challenge of, oh, now I can't access it, or that money costs 2-3 times as much as it did a year ago, which changes that operating dynamic within the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, like when COVID first happened, I was in Washington, D.C. and in February, and I met the FDA Commissioner, Stephen Hahn. This is through Chem ID, which is software business. I met Commissioner Stephen Hahn, and I reached out to shake his hand, and he's like, I can't shake your hand. I was just like, it's bizarre. And he was like, no, there's COVID. It's very serious. And I'm going to go ask Congress right now for $8 billion. And I was like, oh my God, $8 billion. That's a lot of money. He was like, trust me, it's a drop in the bucket. And he was like, you need to pay attention. And so on the way home, I flew back. I was researching, COVID, China, and you see people falling over. Everybody's wearing a mask. So I bought masks for all my employees, and then one of my employees accidentally bought a whole pallet of toilet paper just by accident. I mean, a fortuitous event, right? Which we basically just gave away. And obviously we kept some for ourselves. But the long story short is, like, you really just don't know what's going to happen. And so it's always good to have a plan, and that plan should always include, saving money. It should include what happens if the banking industry shuts down. And so when COVID happened, I flew back to Austin, and I'm an EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization, which is part of YPO. And the first thing we all agreed on was, if you have a line of credit, draw it, max it out, take it, draw the whole line out, even if you're paying interest on it, put that money in the operating account, because a bank can very well pull a line. They can, just like a credit card company can lower your access to capital. They can basically lower your credit limit. A bank can pull a line in a heartbeat. And so I'm not saying that that's what anybody should do today. I'm just saying, like, these are things that, you should have, you should never be maxed out, but, like, there are certain times when things happen where, you need to be very careful. Obviously, what happened with SVB, where, you had all these companies that had deposited money. I was confident that the Fed would step in and ensure people had not lost their money. But I was also thinking in the back of my head, what about all those companies that have payroll that exceeds $250,000 every 2 weeks? Like, how are they going to make payroll?
Yeah.
And then the next thing I thought of was, like, oh my God, the VCs, pretty much almost all of them that I know at least, use SVB Bank, because SVB provides all these business services. Like, they will loan money to companies that are, that have received venture capital from big, VCs, because they know the VCs back them, and they know that, if you're backed by Sequoia or, Kleiner Perkins, or, some big VC, that you will have access to capital as long as you've got a good business plan moving forward. So they would create lines of credit for these companies, and they would offer 409As and all these other business services that no other bank would ever offer. And so they attracted all of the, private equity, all of Silicon Valley, not just the wine business, all of Silicon Valley. And then when this banking rush occurred, what my first thought was like, I said, okay, what happens to everybody that needs to hit payroll in 2 weeks? And then I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen in the minds of the venture capitalists? Most VCs are not cutting new checks right now, right? They weren't cutting checks for the last 6 months. You could get some private equity in there. You could get some family office money, you get friends and family money, but that's not VC money, right? VCs were being very selective about where they were, dropping their big chips. And they were also saving some of that money for their existing portfolio companies, their portcos. And so I was thinking to myself, what is this going to do to the young entrepreneur today who has an amazing idea and is getting ready to, start a company and raise money? And how many of those people are not going to start that company because of what's going on right now? How many of those people are going to say, forget it, I don't want to do this, and I'm just going to go work for a big company, right? And the sad part about that is that job growth, wealth creation, opportunity, they're very, very limited in these giant corporations, right? The job creation is fundamentally, is in the small to medium-sized business that's growing. Wealth creation for these young entrepreneurs who graduated from college or didn't graduate from college, right? But they're willing to take a risk. They're like, I'm not going to college, I'm going to go start my own company. And so, to me, I saw that as like, what a shame, what a shame that, things are going to be frozen for 6 to 12 to 18 months. And I hope the risk takers are still there. I hope they're willing to say, I'm still going to do it, because they're the ones that are going to create opportunity. They're the ones that are going to create wealth for the future. It's not the big companies.
It's a really good perspective. I appreciate you sharing all that. If I could, I want to kind of go back to something else that you'd mentioned that's really important right now, and that's really being empathetic and understanding that your team members are feeling things even at home, right? Inflation's going up, things are costing more, just like we may feel it in business and our costs going up, things like that. But they're also feeling things. Um, what do you think is the best approach to really take care of the team at this time when free flowing money may not be there to provide monetary bonuses and things like that to assist them along the way? Um, how do you see, especially smaller companies, younger entrepreneurs, really taking care of the team that they have during this time frame?
Yeah, I think it's important for the leaders that are out there, to do a bit more. They don't have to be these expensive offsites where everybody has to fly to Costa Rica or to Hawaii, right? I mean, you can do local events where you just meet up at the bowling alley and hang out, and I'll run a tab for a couple $100. Get people's mind off of all the hard noise that's coming in, and just remind them of the past. I mean, I have employees that have been with me for 17 and 18 years. And these are people that's, when I hired them, they left Pizza Hut as delivery drivers, and they are directors and they make six figures now. And it gives me so much joy to see them, now they have a family, right? Or they have, they have the ability to go on vacation now and stuff like that. And everybody's feeling it. I'm feeling it, right? Like when I'm not accumulating money and I'm not saving money. Every dollar I make, I'm spending because, at some level, when my employees come to me and they say, I'm having a real hard time, I don't want to lose this person because I have to retrain somebody else, and I'm going to take a risk on somebody else. And I don't want to have to take that risk when this person is amazing at the job that they do. So if you have to, as a business owner, if you have to cut your salary a little bit to, help, give people a 2% or a 3% increase, it'll show, and everything counts right now. Every dollar counts right now. And that's the one thing that I try to tell people is, I had somebody that works for me that, I think maybe 3 to 6 months ago came to me and said, I'm thinking about buying a new car and buying a new house. And I was like, look, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your personal life, but you may want to wait a little bit because, the stock market is at its all-time high. Everybody's talking about a recession. Things can't continue to be like this for too much longer. And the Fed just keeps increasing their rates. It's like, now's really not the time to buy a house. Why don't you just wait a little bit and wait for the rates to go down, or wait for the prices of the homes to go down so you can actually, buy a better house, and not have these massive payments that are going to weigh you down. You can afford it, but what happens when there's, a creep up in price in every single thing that you do? When your house breaks today, you can call the landlord, fix this. Tomorrow when you buy your home, you have to fix this, And so these are the things that I also have to be respectful of making sure that I'm not trying to pull their dream away from them, but give them some insight as to listen, I've actually been in this scenario before. You remember 2008, 2009? Yeah. I was overspending. I was heavily leveraged. And when the stock market crashed, a lot of my clients called me and canceled their orders for Q4. And I was holding a giant pickle in my hand. And, I had to call my vendors that I made promises that I'm going to buy, X number of barrels. I'm going to buy X number of cases of wine. I'm going to, and I had to call them and say, hey, I'm in trouble over here. Work with me over here. And I would tell any entrepreneur that is in a jam right now because, they owe their vendors money, call your vendor, call them. Don't just not answer. That's not going to help. They're not going to work with you. You got to call them and tell them you're in a jam and to work with you and many of them will. And once you get over it, you're going to laugh about it with them and say, hey, thank you for helping me. I'm loyal. Let's do some business and whatever. I mean, they're going to remember you, right? Just like your employees are going to remember. I would also tell people, like, right now, right now is a really good time to see who's loyal to you. Right now is like, if you have to, a lot of my friends and entrepreneurial friends are in the real estate industry, and the real estate industry is really in a lot of pain right now, whether you're a title company or a mortgage company or a realtor. Now's a hard time because interest rates are pretty high. So a lot of those guys are, they're not super busy. They're just kind of waiting for this thing to loosen up a little bit. And it looks like it's kind of loosening up, and then this bank thing happens, and then, they tighten up again, and everybody's nervous. Like I said, I don't think this is going to last 2 years. I think it's going to last, 6 to 12 months, maybe 18 months. And it'll, things will level out a little bit, simply because, we have a lot of information at our hands today that's available to us. And we're creating and innovating in many different spaces now, not just, in tech. And we're innovating in healthcare. We're innovating in artificial intelligence. We're innovating in robotics. We're innovating, there's lots of skilled labor out there, opportunities, that are out there for young people too. So don't go out there and spend all your money. Save your money, learn how to live within your means, and this too shall pass.
So I got to ask, we flipped this around a bit. We kind of talked about the challenges that are kind of on the horizon, but as you stated, this all passes. This stuff happens. It's it's a cyclical thing with economy and everything else. What are you most excited about as you look forward, beyond the next 12 to 24 months and kind of where things are headed in general? What gets you most excited about where things are headed?
So the things that excite me the most right now is a lot of it has to do with technology. I really love what I see with like Chat GPT. I mean, help, essentially, and I can understand why it scares people. I mean, it's pretty amazing. You type in a question, write 1,000 words for me on this topic here, and it's not perfect. What comes out isn't perfect, but it's a skeleton that saves you a lot of time. And it, all of these tools that are coming out right now help you do more with less, right? And I think that's the thing that I think is truly fascinating to me. And what I also, obviously, coming out of COVID, seeing healthcare adapt, right? Telemedicine, being able to have more access to speak with doctors or medical professionals, not have to go to the doctor's office to have a conversation with somebody, being able to access new medications that normally would take 10 years to emerge, and have it come out in 6 to 9 months. And they're not perfect, I'm sure we're going to figure that out over the next 10 years. But it's interesting to me because, to me, everybody out there has somebody in their family or somebody that they know that's been sick or has some rare disease or something like that. And it's been too expensive for pharmaceutical companies to actually invest money in these rare diseases where few people actually have them. So they're just basically left to wither and die. And to see these new personalized medicines that are, like whether it's CRISPR technology or mRNA vaccines or what have you, yeah, of course they're going to scare some people because they're not tested, they're new. But to see these things emerge and know that people that are out there that have rare diseases, are going to have access to healthcare and have access to, opportunities. Talking to some of my friends that are in the emerging sciences related to Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's runs in my family. So does heart disease runs in my family. So to see some of these technologies come out that might actually help me in the future. Who knows? Heaven forbid. I don't have to have, or help my children, my two beautiful girls. All of those things excite me. And I would say the one thing that excites me the most is, when I was going through college, my parents used to, and many of my friends, our parents used to beat it in us. You need to go to college. You need to go to college. A lot of my friends whose parents never went to college beat it into their kids. You got to go to college. You got to go to college. And college is expensive. But to see these people that are graduating from high school be able to go online and actually learn online and get degrees online, I think one of the greatest things that we're going to see come out of the last 20 years is the fact that you don't have to go out and take hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans. You can sign up for a program online and go get a bachelor's degree, master's degree, maybe even a doctorate degree, maybe even some skill degree, and go make a real living and do very well, and potentially even change your career and go do it again in another career. And so I think for very, very young people that don't have the means to be able to do that and actually succeed all over the world, for that matter, is very exciting, because the rate of innovation is simply just going to increase and new wealth will be created, right? Whereas in the past, it was all old money and you were lucky if you got a whack at the apple. I think now you're going to see, the challenge of the cost of education and access to education is going to be more opened up. And I think COVID taught us that. Like, you can go online and study and chat. It's not perfect. There's definitely a difference between being in a school with a lot of people and having human interaction, which I think people actually really need. But still, I mean, for people that are in remote areas and people in, East or West Africa, where, education is really limited and, governments do not subsidize schools, to see those people get an education and advance and help their countries emerge from poverty, super powerful. Yeah.
I could not agree with you more on the excitement around kind of the education space. I mean, that shift in how people are willing to learn. I mean, the information's there. We started, this conversation with saying that we have access to so much information that we don't even know what to do with it all. But being able to have that shift has been really, really fascinating to watch over the past, 3+ years or so. I joke that I've probably learned more outside of college than I did in college, just given the fact that we have access to things and access to more people to learn from and all that kind of stuff. So it is really cool. I share your excitement in that realm. So Alex, I do want to be respectful of time. I'm kind of looking up here and realizing how long we've been chatting. So I like to end on one final question, but before I do, for the audience here, if they want to learn more about you, follow you for all of this wonderful, knowledgeable information that you've been sharing, want to find out more about any of your companies, things like that, where can they find out more information? Where can they connect with you?
Well, they can connect with me on LinkedIn is where I'm found. I don't use traditional social media for much. LinkedIn is where you'll find me, on a professional basis. I run 3 companies: Personal Wine, where you can do personalization of wine and liquor for gifting. Corporate gifting is our specialty. So, if you're a realtor sending a gift, or if you're in a tech company sending a gift to clients, or, retirement parties, what have you, we are the #1 company that do personalized wine and liquor gifting, engravings on wine and liquor bottles, sending them directly to the clients. And my other company, Estate Wine Brokers, we buy, sell, and trade super high-end wine on the secondary market. So it's an auction alternative: estatewinebrokers.com, personalwine.com. Chem ID is a very specialized company that does chemical data management for regulated goods. So specifically test, track, and trace transportation of regulated goods. Regulated goods could be rare earth minerals, metals, sensitive chemicals, cannabis, psilocybin, anything that, you need chain of custody. That's what we specialize in Chem ID. But if you want to reach out to me, need business advice, LinkedIn is probably the best place to go. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I will be sure to put all of the information in the description of this below. I'm going to kind of call this back to one thing that you had mentioned towards the beginning of this here, and that was, call your clients, actually get them on the phone, be personable, that sort of thing. A little gift can go a long way in keeping that relationship, and it's much easier to keep current clients than it is to have to go out and acquire new ones.
Oh, yeah.
So your personal line business, the gifting, all that kind of stuff, phenomenal tool there. So I encourage everyone to go check that out when they get a chance to finish this up here. So, Alex, I'm going to finish off with the final question here, and that's I'm going to phrase it a little bit differently since we talked a little bit about kind of what excites you, but what keeps you inspired today?
Um, obviously I love to see people succeed, whether they're my employees. I love to succeed. I love to see young entrepreneurs succeed, whether success is defined as making more money or winning big deals or selling their company and having, exits and wealth events. But what I also appreciate as well is the struggle and watching people emerge from that struggle. And so, what I would tell these people who are struggling right now is every day is another day. And so if you're having a bad day today, if you had 2 or 3 bad days in a row, all it takes is having a couple great days to get you back up. Don't lose your spirit. Don't lose your faith. Focus. And you might have to work twice as hard right now to just to get the same result, or maybe 3 times as hard, but give it everything you have. And that's the thing that gets me the most excited is seeing people who are struggling overcome the struggle and persevere and succeed. Yeah.
Beautiful. Truly inspiring.
Thanks.
Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to chat, share your knowledge, share your insights. You are a very knowledgeable individual, and I know that this information is going to resonate out there. So thank you so much for being here today. It's been a genuine pleasure.
Thank you, Tanner. Appreciate it very much. And if there's anything I can do for people out there, I'm more than happy to, just reach out and let me know how I can help. So appreciate the time.
Thank you.